Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. Tonight I'm going to be doing a review of a horror film from the United States of America, English language, released in the year 2012, directed by Barry Levinson, and this movie is called The Bay. And the story to The Bay is as follows. The quaint seaside town of Chesapeake Bay thrives on water. It is the lifeblood of the community. When two biological researchers from France find a staggering level of toxicity in the water, they attempt to alert the mayor, but he refuses to create panic in the docile town. As a result, a deadly plague is unleashed, turning the people of Chesapeake Bay into hosts for a mutant breed of parasites that take control of their minds and eventually their bodies, eating them from the inside out. So the movie centers, it takes place in a very quiet seaside town of Chesapeake Bay. Now, it's a very close-knit community and they take pride in the water. So being a seaside town, it's no surprise that water is the lifeblood. So two biological researchers from France, they do tests on the water, and their tests uncover a deadly secret. Now, a nearby chicken factory have been feeding their chickens steroids. Therefore, when the chickens have crapped, they have secretly dumped the crap into the bay, and this has contaminated the water and has unleashed a deadly parasite, a mutated parasite. So pretty soon, when the townspeople drink the water, they're being contaminated themselves, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. So basically, the movie is centered upon this director, not the director, a reporter, who is doing a story, and she's retelling her horrific moments that were occurring once this outbreak took place. So that's all I'm going to give you on the synopsis. If you want to know more, please go out there and see this film for yourself. Now, my thoughts on this movie. Very, very good film. This one really surprised me because I didn't go into it with much expectation. And number one, it was another found footage horror film. And I'm sure that's going to annoy a lot of people because obviously we all know that found footage seems to be the thing to do in horror. So, but I would strongly suggest that you go out there and see it still because it's not a ghost story. What makes this movie absolutely terrifying is that it's very, very real. Now, where another movie fails where this one succeeds is Contagion. Now, Contagion, it's not a found footage film, it's a film of a bigger budget. But I felt that for a virus movie, Contagion doesn't get its point across because Contagion, it centers upon characters, but characters from a worldwide perspective. So, yeah, it's a worldwide outbreak, but because there are so many characters that Contagion is centering upon, it doesn't give you enough time for the feeling of fear to sink in. So because it's skimming from one story to another, from one corner of the globe to the other, it doesn't really give you enough time to really digest what's going on. Therefore, it doesn't really create the panic that the real situation would. Now, Contagion, I wanted to feel what I felt in the 90s. Now, in the 90s in Canberra, true story, when I was really young, there was an outbreak of meningococcal disease. Now, meningococcal disease is this horrible rash that grows and grows, and eventually it'll kill you if you don't do something about it. So I read a story when I was young about this baby who lived close by who had its leg cut off because there was no other option because the rash was getting really bad. So I remember feeling real panic and just overall sense of sheer paranoia, and I was worried that even the littlest the itch that I had was basically the rash. So that's what panic does to you, and that's what these sort of situations do. But I didn't feel that in Contagion because I felt that the characters, because it tried to do so much in a very broad sense, it didn't have enough time to stay in one particular moment. Therefore, you don't get enough time to really sink in and really feel for these characters and get the overwhelming sense that there is a lot, something really bad happening. Because, for that, I felt that they bit off way more than they could chew. Therefore, the overall sense in Contagion wasn't fear, but boredom. So that skepticism was brought into this film. But what I loved about the movie is that Barry Levinson doesn't have characters that he delves into. Yeah, the main character is the reporter who's basically retelling a story, but it's not a main point. What I loved about it was the fact that it's not about the overall, specific characters, it's about the overall community. So because it's such a close-knit community, there's an overwhelming sense of claustrophobia. So where Contagion fails, this one succeeds. It does take place in a much smaller environment, and it doesn't center upon any specific person. So it feels like a news report. Therefore, it creates so much realism, and I thought this one got under my skin. It really shook me, and it brought me back to the 90s where I actually had that feeling. So what happens, it's snippets from news reports, it's from this reporter's work, there's from Skype calls. You've got the doctors trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and they don't know what's going on, so obviously that creates a lot of fear. You've got the mayor who doesn't want to tell anybody anything about these deadly secrets for his own sake, which is very selfish and also very scary. And then you've got the government cover-ups that really happen. And I thought the government cover-ups was probably the most alarming thing in this film, in the fact that they were willing to do certain things, and I'm not going to tell you, in order to save their own skin. So for that, I thought Barry Levinson created something that was genuinely realistic and genuinely terrifying. As far as horror is concerned, there are some truly horrific moments. From the start of the movie, it starts off as this bay. They're all very loving. They're all, they take a lot of pride. But then slowly, one person becomes contaminated, and then it just starts going and going and going, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And I thought the level of tension throughout the film was superb. But what got me the most was the fact that it was more of a claustrophobic feeling, and the way that it was told, because it doesn't center on one specific person, it does it over a broad community. It felt realistic, and it felt like you were watching something that was from a news archive. So I really liked that aspect to it. I felt Contagion failed because it was centering on characters, but too many characters. So in this one, he's ditched the overall sense of character development, but he's developing the overall, the town. And for that, I felt genuine fear for the people. I felt that I could connect to these people because, they were everyday Americans. Being Australian, I'm not saying that I have a connection to Americans, but I'm saying that I could connect to the overall environment, the close-knit community. I've been a part of them. And so when these bad things start happening, you feel that their world is getting smaller and smaller, and that they have no control over this deadly virus, and that it is basically threatening to wipe them all out. Now, what I didn't like about the movie, unfortunately, it does come with its problems. I thought the fact that the news reporter that is telling the story narrates it a little bit too much. There's a narration in the film. It's not the whole film, but there is small narrations that I thought were really unnecessary, and it kind of took it out a little bit. I thought after a while she got a little bit annoying, and I felt that they didn't really need her in the film. And I just thought that it was unnecessary, and that was the only sort of real criticism that I have of the film. I thought there are some very gory scenes. As I said, when you find out what the hell is going on and how bad things are getting, it is a genuine horror film, and for that I really, really liked it. It took me by surprise. I thought the soundtrack was incredible. It matched the mood perfectly, but what got me the most is the realism that Barry Levinson has created. As far as found footage films are concerned, this is different. It doesn't revolve around ghosts. It doesn't exaggerate it to the point where it's from a different dimension. It is just a very, very realistic portrayal of government neglect, and basically just a really, really nasty virus that is very real. So if you want something very realistic and it basically tells you about the ecosystem kind of thing, it's an ecological sort of horror film, this one's definitely for you. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will as well. And there are some scenes that will stay with you for a very, very long time. So a very good film. I'm going to give it 4 stars. Highly, highly recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.